Hello, everybody. Welcome to AJTV Live. We are up to 19 of these of various formats. I should put up a Twitter poll, see what version of this show people prefer. But, in the meantime, come on webcam, you can do it. Oh, I'm behind the scene. There we go. There I am! What's up, everybody? So, this is GP San Antonio, which I recognized was like a week and a half ago. I was gonna do the episode, like, the Tuesday after the tournament, but I got extremely ill and spent a couple days with my head in the toilet, which is no fun. But I will be writing a tournament report about all the shenanigans that happened because this was a crazy tournament. But as for what this show is, look for that on New My Gaming later. New My Gaming, look at that. But this is about my round 8 feature match against Dan Ward. That was Le Epic, I believe is how the kids refer to it. So first, let's look at the deck, shall we? Boom. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, this was a team modern event, which is, yeah, Scooter. This stream was indeed brought to you by kickball.com and Club Waka. So this was a team unified modern tournament, which means that our 3 decks had to have no overlapping cards. We had to be able to put all of our decks together. Well, the rule used to be that you had to shuffle all of your decks and sideboards together and be able to present it as a legal deck. Now it's since I have 1 Ghost Quarter in my deck. Where's my pen? Since I have 1 Ghost Quarter in my sideboard, neither of my teammates could play any Ghost Quarters. I don't like the rule, but that's the way that they decided we should do this now. Thankfully, we didn't have too much overlap. Actually, I had no overlap. I wanted to play this deck from the get-go, and then one of our players, Ben, could only play Burn, and then Jonathan Job was our third, and he actually had choices between decks, ended up playing an Eldritch Evolution deck that he had to make a couple small changes to his mana base to accommodate the Burn deck, but we basically all got to play the deck that we wanted to play with no overlap, so the Team Unified thing didn't really come up. But it is significant to know because you're going to see a lot of the super linear strategies that don't have overlap with other decks, especially in the mana base. Like, Burn is a linear deck that doesn't have that has near no spell overlap with other decks, besides actual literal Lightning Bolt. But the mana base is really greedy. So you'll see a lot of, like, Tron, Eldrazi Tron, Affinity type decks. And then some sort of combo deck, and then some sort of normal, like, Jundish or Death Shadow deck is usually the mix you can expect. But I wanted to play this, and reason A is I think Death Shadow is just busted. This shell is the best thing you can be doing in Modern by far, and I didn't like the red, plus I didn't have bolts anyway. And I really didn't like the white, but I did not like the Delirium package. So the original, or the, post Gitaxian Probe Death Shadow decks would all have, I always want to call it Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble. Would all have Mishra's Bauble and traverse the Uvenwald. Not a fan. Don't like that package at all. I just think the Bobble is really bad, and Traverse is fine, but like you don't really get a lot of utility. I mean, the fact that the builds all have like different utility creatures and bullets and sideboard cards to get with it kind of shows that it's probably not really that necessary, because if it was necessary, everybody would have, you know, this the Rallier and the Kataki or whatever. But since it's really up in the air what you're even getting, at that point, why get stuff? So this takes the Traverse Mishra's Bauble out and fills it with the Grixis version's shell of the Thought Scours and the Delve creatures. I have 2 Tassiger and 1 Angler. And then the Stubborn Denials are also kind of part of that package. The reason I think this is good is I think Scour is just great to start with, but also the you'll see a lot of mirrors and other Jund decks, and having these huge creatures that can't be bolted or decayed is pretty massive. Excuse me. And the fact that you can have Stubborn Denial up is huge, right? Like, theoretically, the other version could play Stubborn Denial, but if your threat is Traverse for a Tarmogoyf and cast it, or even Traverse for a Death Shadow and cast it, it's a lot harder to have Stubborn Denial up than if you can just play a 1-mana thing, a 1-mana monster that then turns on the Ferocious of the Stubborn Denial. So that's kind of the theory behind this particular deck, this particular build of this particular deck. And I guess I'll just take questions about it at the end. You all know what Death Shadow looks like. Cut a couple of Inquisitions to make room for the stubs. The last change to the deck was I had 1 Decay 4 stub and swapped those, the other Decay into the board. Or the other stub into the board, I should say. Besides that, pretty straightforward. The Jace is just a 3rd Snapcaster, and in fact probably should have just been the 3rd Snapcaster, but I think the Jace is good in theory. It ended up not playing that great. I went for 2 Liliana the Last Hopes because I already have Scours, and without Traverses, I'm potentially threat light. And when you have cards like Stubborn Denial, plussing to get both players Hellbent isn't as worthwhile. So, pretty easy decision for me to go with Liliana the Last Hope. But, as we're going to see in this match, that's not all upside. And I guess that's it for the deck. Let's just get right into the games. Yes, you can get through pushes, and also things like Kolaghan's commands that are usually pretty strong in the mirror. You know, like discard a card and get back my Death Shadow is really, really strong. Stubborn Denial gives you a way to combat that. Because these games, those mirror games, grind out, and your discard spells get really bad, but your stubs stay awesome. And so, let's get into the game. Suppose I should mute it. I have not watched this back yet. I mean, I've seen it because I was there, but I figured it would kind of be cool to do it, you know, semi-blind. Not going to bother turning on the commentary, although doing commentary on commentary is kind of sweet. I'm second guessing myself now. Alright. let's hear what the boys have to say. I believe it was BDM and Chapin in the booth for this particular match.
Did pick up a loss along the way, and they are
Scooter or somebody else. Can you hear?
But they've got one.
Them.
They've got one in the books here. See if there's anything. Just for extra value, that was a 3-for-1.
I'll let it run for a second. This game finishes right after this, obviously.
Are looking pretty grim for Andrew Solano.
Oh yeah,
here.
and there's a Stony Silence, by the way. Also,
Magic Goblet.
Yeah.
Here's Eldritch Evolution. Let's
You
go.
can hear them
Kiki.
very softly. All right, I'll turn them up a
And
little
we're
bit.
just in time. Kiki Jiki comes down,
All right, cool.
and Andrew no longer
So they're gonna
having
switch
enough
over,
artifacts for Metalcraft, so no risk of a galvanic blast. And he does take the match.
Wow, that
so
deck looks sweet.
looks sweet.
By the way,
Apparently-
when it came in, the graphic had said that the both teams.
I told somebody to just
teams went up.
find the timestamp for me and link it.
Jonathan Jones team 6-0-1. They drew one.
And by
round.
told somebody, I mean found it on
Daniel
a
Ward's
site.
team-
But we're jumping into the middle of game 2 here, so I guess game 1 was not recorded, which is a shame because it was a pretty good game. I believe. All right, so first of all, we sit down and Dan Ward introduces himself to me, which we've met, but it happens. And then the second thing he did was complain about losing to me in Costa Rica. What's that, like 8 months ago? Which was a little weird, but I guess that loss really stuck with him. And, which is extra weird because, you know, he talked about how it kind of derailed his tournament. But he didn't talk about how he threw game 1 away. Where I was playing the blue-red Fevered Visions aggro deck, the Saito deck. And he was playing terrible black-white control as always, which is a great matchup for me. But my game 1 draw was pretty bad. But at one point, that I'm just like, obviously losing. I'm just completely dead in a couple turns. He takes the damage off an Obnixilis for absolutely no reason, and then like 3 turns later, the turn before I die, I draw an Exquisite Firecraft and light him up for Xaxes. So, didn't mention that, but did mention that he can't believe how unlucky he was to play against that blue-red deck, since so few people were playing it at the tournament, which is true. But yeah, so then we got called over for the feature match. And as we were walking over to the feature match, or as we were sitting down for it, Jonathan Job was like, so you saw your opponent drop a Temple Garden, right? And I was like, nope, thanks for telling me, though. And I think I generally have good matchups against Temple Gardens, though I did not expect Bogles, which I'm going to call Bogles, even though I know it's pronounced Bogles, because it's more fun to say Bogles. Bogles, get a little Chicago with it. And apparently, like afterwards, I was talking about this match, and somebody was like, "Yeah, he just plays Bogles." Like, kind of as if I should know that, but all right. And so game 1, I think I lost the roll. No, I won the roll, and played a discard spell, and saw he had a 1-lander on the draw with a couple of Spirit Mantles, and I didn't take the Spirit Mantles. I took like an Ethereal Armor or something. And then there was a point where like he could draw a land and play a Spirit Mantle, and it would probably win in the game. Like if he did that, then I would have to draw an Abrupt Decay. But he didn't draw a land, So he put like another 1-mana enchantment on his creature. And then for the rest of the game, I had Stubborn Denial up with Snapcaster Stubborn Denial backup. So even if he drew the second land, like he wasn't landing the Spirit Mantle and was dead very quickly because the Death Shadow deck kills really fast, especially because he attacked me a couple times for like 3. So my Death Shadow was huge. So on the last turn, I have 2 creatures. I have like a 9/9 Death Shadow and a Tassiger. And I just attack with both in a way that if I have nothing and he draws, and he has something, like either a land for this second, a second land for this Spirit Mantle, or a 1-mana enchantment to pump his thing, then I would be dead, right? He has to draw or have anything, and I have to have absolutely nothing. And so he draws and has a 1-mana enchantment and like turns to his teammates like, I have to go for it, right? His teammate's like, yeah. So he plays it on his thing and then attacks for Xaxes and has play Snapcaster, Chump, and win. Which is just so obvious because if I didn't have the Snapcaster, then I can just leave back one of my creatures and not die to anything. So as I play my Snapcaster, he turns to his teammate and says, he drew Snapcaster, or he top decked the Snapcaster, which was literally in my opening hand. So I made some comment like, "Oh, you think I drew it? That's cool. That's cute," or something like that, while kind of smirking at him. But apparently he did not like that, did not take it the right way, and we moved on to game 2. So game 2 is this affair where I am on the draw and his draw's pretty good. I get a Death Shadow out there.
They pick up a loss along the way, and they are 6-1.
Which Death Shadow's awesome because
they've got one.
It's like
they've got one in
it's
the book.
actually big enough to block these huge Bogles.
Quite the
Like
Spirit Link.
I'm just gonna flip back and forth between Bogles and Bogles.
Wow.
White bordered.
It's really hard to block those things. There's like, oh, my 7-power first strike trampler, and
Rest in peace.
I can just roadblock it.
Definitely a solid card.
Rest in
Expensive,
peace.
However, not at its best comparatively.
Fine.
It is.
I'm not sure. I would definitely not bring in more than one against against my own deck. This is Grixis Death Shadow, by the way. I'm Sultai Death Shadow.
Shut down your Tarmogoyfs, or,
Sure. Absolutely. Your traverses.
Talking about traverses that are not in my deck also.
A sweet little piece of extra value. Probably, I don't know how many he has in his deck after sideboard. Might just be like a fun of here. He probably has more than that in his.
Yeah, it looks like he's got access to 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if he plays them. I think that the combination of
I don't know what card they're talking about.
Disrupting Tarmogoyf, Culligan's Command,
Rest in peace.
Elven Wild.
So, Rest in peace. They're talking about Rest in peace, and he's like, "Yeah, bring them all in." I wouldn't. I think 1 is fine because it is fairly impactful and annoying, but drawing 2 is so devastatingly bad. Like the second one is so heinous that I wouldn't want to risk that. The problem is that even though my Abrupt Decays and Golgari Charms and the like are taxed, because obviously I have to hit some of these enchantments, if there's a Rest in Peace that's really that problematic, I can kill it. Which I guess is an argument for having more, but like also if you have more than 1, then I can just not kill it and kind of ignore it. So Rest in Peace is a weird one. Like I don't think it's an automatic include. I actually think it might be bad to have more than 1, like maybe 2. But I don't think I would want all 3. Like how I laid down my hand. Yeah, he kept asking me how many cards I had, so I just kept putting them on the table because I was tired of telling him.
Prodigy, Massacre the Golden Fang, Liliana the Last Hope. Without question, this is one of the better spots for rest in peace among Death Shadow matchups.
So
This is an interesting hybrid.
without the access to Liliana of the Veil, these types of
Grixis Death Shadow, as we have it listed
is
up
a
there.
giant
it looks
spirit
like it's
link.
actually Sultai Death Shadow from the deck list. Doesn't look like he actually has any red cards.
They're
I
figuring
think
out what my
he's,
deck is.
playing, just straight up Sultai.
So at this
I
point,
mean, I guess technically he's got a Fulminator Mage in the sideboard.
I go down to 1,
So
2.
+7.
Oh, the other thing that was weird is like I asked. I think it was on this attack or an attack similar to this. I was like, it's like 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 with the ranker. So it's a 7/5, and he just doesn't say anything and stares at me. And I'm like, oh wait, the rest in peace is an 8/5. It's an 8/6, and he just stares at me. I'm like, so it's an 8/6 first strike trample with the 2 spirit links. And like finally he kind of like lets out like a small nod. Like, dude, we're playing a game of Magic. Like, is the way that you win by like just hoping they miscount? I don't know. There were a lot of things in this match that were really weird. So
And lifelink and first strike and trample on the Bogle.
here is
It's
a thing
lot.
where
No
this
two ways about it. It's a lot.
No
where I have to
stack
chump.
up, spirit
I'm gonna
links.
untap into Damnation,
No.
No more. That doesn't
No.
happen.
You can stack Lux.
but this
Yeah.
this becomes a Dryad
I think,
Arbor.
like Armadillo Cloak, maybe actually. Armadillo Cloak you can stack.
So I'm trying to figure out,
You can stack.
you know,
Spirit
what
Lux,
my
though.
life total is gonna
It's not
be
the same.
like
It's not actually.
when it's
Spirit
all
Link
said and
doesn't
done.
give the creature.
To see if there's a way
life-
that I can like save an
you
extra
gain
point
life.
Right,
Oh.
because you can Spirit Link your opponent's creatures.
With,
I promise you, I have. When you Spirit
with, you
Link,
know, the
creatures, I
fetch
mean,
and the shadow and the
Spirit Link-
whatnot.
Spirit Link is equal
To see if I can like save a
Definitely you
point,
can,
because
Spirit
1
Link
point
your own,
is,
your
you know, a
opponent's,
full
whatever
turn
you
off of
want.
this thing. So I
Everyone's
tanked for a
Death
minute
Shadow.
there.
Whatever.
Also, that pauses me asking my opponent about his cards.
Death Shadow getting in the way.
Sometimes you got to chump block, man. And this is a 5/5 Death Shadow.
Yeah,
Going
exactly.
Up to 6/6 at
With the
very least,
Fungineer.
possibly more. With the Ethereal Armor is currently +5. Rancor is 2 extra for a total of +7. This Boggle is only an
The Ranker,
8/6.
or the rest in peace
only an
locking out
8/6
his Ranker
first
is
strike.
kind of gas too.
The
Like,
Death
if he doesn't have
Shadow
the rest in
getting an
peace,
untapped
then
Burning Pool is
the Ranker on the
still
Dryad Arbor would be
only
lethal.
Put, Soccer at
Just saying.
5, which makes the
Just
Death
saying.
Shadow an 8/8.
Rest in peace, maybe not that
AJ
great.
needs a Street Wraith or some other way
Not
of
an
getting himself
automatic
at
jam
instant
them all in
speed,
there at the very least.
if he's really at 5, or else this is just a chump. And it
Yep.
looks like it is just a chump.
Just a chump.
So I chump to stay at 5.
So it looks like AJ does have a Damnation, though. I mean, Damnation.
And then I have Watery Grave Damnation this
Pretty
turn.
exciting here.
So I
Does
can
he
go
have
to
a second
3,
basic swamp?
and then
Which
2
he
from the
doesn't.
Dryad Arbor attack.
No, okay, he had 4. As
Um,
long as he's got a basic. he
If
can only-
Dan
he
Ward
only
has
needs to take
nothing,
But he might need to.
they
take
have,
3
he has no
to
cards in
get
hand,
the
so
rest of his line.
whatever
He's
he
looking like
draws.
inside his
Draws a
lap.
Ranker, I die. If he
So we are
draws
about to find out. as
a
AJ
one,
fetches.
a plus
Does he go
1
4 or does he
thing,
go
then I go to 1.
Could go to 2. I doubt he's going to go to 3.
Oh yeah, 2. I'm sorry. You're right.
And he finds basic forest, so he is at 4.
So I fetched here, I guess, to save 1 more point. Because I can play Watery Grave tapped at another
Umbra
point.
Lurking over
That's right.
there.
I drew the Catacombs, so I can just save a thing.
Damnation, big card, big card in this position.
Damnation was a Jerry T special. I showed him my list
So
and
AJ has
asked him
a
about
new
sideboard
lease on life.
stuff. And he said I needed more
Daniel Ward is
sweepers.
at 37 though.
I said,
I mean,
I
AJ
said,
doesn't have
like,
a new lease on life.
I
Daniel
can't
Ward-
cast Damnation.
He's got
He's the
life-
He was like,
he's
yeah,
got
just
life to
play
spare.
explosives,
Yeah, he
which
is the
was...
Life Lord.
I was going to play some
Landlord,
explosives
and
also, which
in
I ended up playing
general,
2
he's kind
explosives.
of,
But then my idea was play like 2
okay.
Ghost Quarter and
This
2
is what I'm-
Damnation so I could board them in.
Fetches up
Or Ghost
a
Quarters over
Dryad Arbor.
Fulminators. And he
What
said
can we
just
do
1
with
and
this
1.
Dryad Arbor, Daniel Ward?
So that's
I got
how
so
I ended
much
up with
respect
1
for
Ghost Quarter,
everybody who
1
plays the
Damnation in my
Future
board.
Sight Dryad Arbor. As long as, I mean, As long
Bricked
as it's
off,
not that full art one.
drew a creature, a
it's probably
scout,
deceptive practices.
attack for
So
1
blade
down to
cover
3.
scout coming down, diversifies
Street Wraith
towards
embarrassing.
threats. This is unfortunate for AJ. The Dryad Arbor wouldn't exactly be the most difficult to deal with threat.
Turn on the
But
sound
already
of
we
the
have
video.
another boggle
Yes, I
in
can
the
do
building.
that.
Here comes Tarmogoyf.
There we go. So 0-1 Tarmogoyf and Tar Pit
For one,
with
sorry.
Goblin Piker Snapcaster in defense mode.
But what are you gonna do? Honestly, you got Tarmogoyf sometimes. That's that's all you got.
But that extra land lets me cast the
And
Street
it's,
Wraith the next turn also.
It's
Which
definitely
a lot of
not
people
the
forget
best
that
spot for
Street
Tarmogoyf.
Wraith can be cast, but
Daniel,
casting Street Wraith is pretty great in a lot of matchups.
Into the Tarmogoyf.
I think I have a Snapcaster here. Yeah, I do.
Huh.
AJ's holding Snapcaster Mage. And he is going to flash that in with no mana left open to, do anything since it doesn't matter.
So I'm obviously blocking the Scout here. The question is whether I chump the Arbor now
Your Snapcaster Mage just
or wait until it might have an enchantment on it. And I want to stay at 3 life because it's very possible that I'll have to pay 1 or 2 life on a future turn. So it's important to leave myself that
Right down
option.
to block is definitely a tough way to do it, but
Street
people
Wraith
say
in
you
defense
never actually
mode.
Play that.
That's not true. That
That's
just
not
never
true.
This also protects
That's not
me
true.
I've played many
from a
games.
Spirit Mantle off the top by saving that 1 extra life, which is a real legitimate
Okay.
fear. Instead,
There's
it's a
a boggle.
Boggle and a 3rd land.
Now,
And now I have Street Wraith and Creeping Tar Pit.
I think it's going to be on defense a bit. It's important though. AJ has a creeping tar pit, so he does have 2 blockers.
Yeah,
Or
so I
he
have
has
2
one
blockers.
blocker if he wants to give him
The
the
decision here, which is actually a pretty
You're
significant
getting into
one,
some
is
weird
to
spots.
start attacking
You could just give him the creeping tar pit, keep the street wraith back. if you want.
or
But
leave them
it's
both back to
dangerous because
block.
Path to Exile,
The problem
sometimes
with
these,
attacking is that
sometimes
the
these
Spirit
ball
Link
defense
hit
have
and then the
access
2
to
Spirit Link
Poison
hit
Ring.
means that Dan is up to
Yeah, I don't know. I think
37,
it's a long road to do 37 damage though.
yeah, and AJ
which is a whole lot.
decides
So I can't do it.
caution is the better.
Another
part.
creature to go wide,
Plays another glade cover. Step.
and
Goes up to
I have an
3
explosives, which I
creatures.
kept in
There's
hand,
an engineered
trying to
explosive
bait
in AJ.
Engineer
another thing.
explosives
Plus, if
potentially
Spirit Mantle comes
range
down, I can
creeping
blast it
tar
for
pit.
2 and get the rest in
possibility
peace
of
also.
Either killing multiple boggles to actually get this thing under control,
Or
rest in
if
peace for some reason he wants to
another
take
1
advantage of
thing
the
comes
scuffles
down, then I
in his
can
graveyard and
do
things like
this.
Yeah, he's gonna actually deal with the 2 creatures here. At some point.
At some point, you got to start somewhere though. So at this point, the
the creature mode on Street Wraith is not Plan A,
To the boggles,
but it's important
but,
to keep in mind. Like
it's not-
there's
this isn't like a
there's spots
long-term-
where I was like playing a mirror,
isn't
and
like
if
a
my
long-term
opponent just like drew and then cycled a Street Wraith, they just hold
That
it
said,
and draw
I
a
think
land the
this is
next
gonna
turn
give
and
him good
play it,
headway.
and then I die to it. I drew Decay, so now I have a little
what's
more
Daniel
insulation.
actually trying to I guess to even draw to punch through at this spot, right? Like, is he just going to grind through the 2 boggles?
Thoughtseize, obviously not a
He's-
great
he's-
draw.
I don't know. So let's see if he's running Keen Sense or some Curiosity or something along those lines. Maybe looking to find a window where he can get through.
I basically
some
just have to
cards.
wait. I think waiting favors me a lot,
And we see.
but I
mean,
can
that's the
still
thing with
die to a
the
lot of
Buggles.
stuff.
They have
Drawing that
so
Decay
many
makes
bricks.
me
They
a
really do.
lot
I mean, they
more
have great
confident in
cards.
waiting.
They have great cards when things are well.
Hardcast Leyline not important. I don't have an Edict
That's an interesting
effect,
one.
and my discard's basically off anyway.
It turns off all the discard.
But yeah, that was kind of. I think the ship had sailed on that already.
It does
And the reason I'm not blasting
potentially power up
explosives
your
here is
ethereal
because
one.
it
You
locks
gotta
him
get
out
that
from
down there.
playing more 1-drops.
Okay. So now
Finally, I have to
time
blast
to
it because
pop
I
that
need
explosive,
my
take
mana
out the 2 boggles.
to hold up the Decay
just in
and
time.
the Tar Pit.
Draws
So
the
I
first
decide that I'm going to start attacking.
Now can actually kind of race here.
What do you think is the biggest Death Shadow anybody's had at this tournament? Because, like, Phyrexian Unlife. You know what I mean?
But I draw Death Shadow, so that's even better.
Wondering about that on the way over here.
Like that, I feel
Now I
like
get
that's
an
gotta
attack
be a
in.
thing.
Again, I'm
Do that
holding
somewhere.
back the Tar Pit because,
Get some sort of
like, this
special
Death
plan.
Shadow is going to be lethal in, like, 4 attacks.
With, Death
So I don't have to push it. I'd rather just
Sometimes
not
you go
die to
hard.
some nonsense.
Or if you have, like, Angel's Grace, and then you just, like, I don't know, spoils the vault your
Some
whole deck.
weird, like, you
I
know,
guess that doesn't work. But, like,
Griff's Boon,
there's gotta be
Spirit
plenty of
Mantle
ways
type,
to just oodles and oodles. Ad nauseum your whole
type
deck.
of
I guess
play.
Once you have Angel's Grace and Ad nauseum, you don't need the Death Shadow. Daniel Ward, definitely a substantial life advantage, even though he's kind of behind the gun in terms of the 10-10
But
Death Shadows.
this game was a pretty sick comeback. I'm not going to lie.
It would not take that much for him to turn this, to start turning this around, right?
No, I mean, I think
And
it's
yet,
gonna
this is
start
not the
with,
titular comeback
and if they're-
of
right
AJTV
there.
number 19, the
There's the
comeback.
Boggle. So now he's got somebody to wear some pants, and he's got some pants.
So
Very
draws the
nice.
Boggle and has the Umbra.
But, you know,
Which is
They're
pretty
like a
irrelevant.
thermal. They're sort of like a
Yes,
thermal. They're like
this
the
is
first layer.
This is definitely
You need to layer.
just the first layer. Yeah.
Goif is another good
Honestly,
draw.
The first layer
Just
is,
as
it's not always the impressive
body
on
for
the
me to,
outside, you know, if there's one thing I know
be
about
able to
the
get
Boggle,
aggressive.
it's the last pair of pants that can get you. So the Death Shadow is going to get in there. AJ with another potential 0-1 Tarmogoyf.
All right, here it
It's
comes.
kind of weird that like a good draw is an 0-1, but it just
the
makes
whole
it so
matchup
that
with,
I actually could have attacked for 3
with-
here,
Modern in general has so many matchups where sometimes the games just go
but
in really
it just gives me
weird directions.
the capability
Really
to start
weird
attacking
directions.
more.
And sometimes you end up with some serious backup plans where it's just, I guess this is my hyena beatdown for 2, or all right, I got the.
He checked his
0-1
exile
Tarmogoyf,
and
just
sideboard
locking
here,
the 1-1 Dried Arbors,
which
whatever.
at the time I was trying to figure out what it was, like what he could be thinking about,
Fox.
but
That is
I
a
couldn't really
heck
come
of
up
a
with
way to
anything,
put
and I thought that maybe it
Tarmogoyf's
was me being
job in life
stupid.
is to be a targeted fog for Dryad Arbor. Yes.
But sometimes they're just looking to
Alright,
see how
so-
unlucky they're getting.
Ward's going to continue to try to just stack some stuff on his last great hope here, the Boggle. The deck's namesake. And, in fact, we have some more mediocre pants.
The other possibility that he
If he
would
can
check
get-
there
if-
is
no,
like
if
he
he
didn't
can get
expect to
one
have
more-
both his Umbras in his deck,
One more hyena.
and like when he drew the second one, he was like, "Wait, how did I sideboard?"
He can actually.
I've done that before.
He can actually force
Beat
the
the
timer
straight
going.
race.
Like, what's in my deck? What's not in my deck that I think
Sure.
is
Actually, he
before I
already
make
did
out
that.
any
Yeah,
plays?
his Boggle is now lethal. Does he have any ways to make it unblockable? I mean,
So again, I think I should have attacked
yeah, it doesn't really have
with the
a lot
Street
of.
Wraith
You
here.
would think with a deck like this that you could make room for, I don't know, some like,
No problem, spare parts.
some evasion, some enchant. I guess Armadillo Cloak.
Yeah,
Rancor.
Rancor is what they usually look
All right, so this game is over,
So maybe
and
he's
you
gotta
can see
be
me get
careful
up
at a
there.
certain point.
I
You know, the Boggles will come for
get
it.
game lost for a deck registration error,
So Rest in Peace continues to.
which is unfortunate, but happens.
Looks like Dan's talking to his teammates about what he might be able to draw.
For, I don't know, some like young players.
They just sit here on the match.
Incinerate,
Oh, yeah.
disenchant, all the basics, of course.
Round 8. Oh, they have a
That
backup
means that
feature match. That's right.
And you were playing Boggles.
There we go. Oh, actually, there's another
So
break
players,
here.
you know,
We shuffle up and present, and then I ask to go to the bathroom.
Actually, I guess AJ
won the game.
He won the game. I'm saying so. AJ Soccer gets to choose.
So,
draw,
kind of funny,
sideboard, do
because
it
they're
again.
like, well, start playing and then go.
And,
And I was like, no.
And it looks like actually
No.
it turns out there is a little bit of evasion in addition to
I
Daniel
want.
Ward has Griff's
I,
Boom.
I don't want to stop a game in the middle of it
Oh, we were thinking
and
about- we
then
were
go
thinking, how could he-
to the
how
bathroom
could
and then
he
come
still
back
do
to
that?
a game underway.
It's a rough one for AJ there.
Dan also wanted to go to the bathroom, so it's like, why can't we just go to the bathroom? But then since it was a team
It
rule,
was definitely not
the
clear cut, but
the
I
rule
think
is that
it
like
actually-
if we leave, then
I
like
would guess
they
it's probably,
our teammates can't help
at
us,
least a
which is kind of a
90%.
nonsense rule. But also we're like, well, we're the feature match, we both are
Nope,
going.
it would appear we
Can
are
you just like
currently
walk us to
deciding
the
the
bathroom? That's what ended up happening. But there's like another judge ordeal here.
Maybe.
as they have to like
Yeah, I
talk
guess
over
there's
if they can
definitely
escort
a
us to the
line of
restroom.
that,
I was like, we can like leave our phones here and be escorted. Like I just want to take a walk, you know, after getting. I also like argued the game loss for a
I
good
thought that AJ would choose, but nothing wrong with calling a judge and being double.
8 minutes,
We
something
have
like
a,
that.
restroom break.
Because yeah, so the deck registration error was just it was just basically a 56 card deck. There was a 4 slot, and the Tarmogoyfs just weren't on my list. So I argued for a while because there was like an empty creature slot, and like it's obvious what that creature is in my like Tarmogoyf deck.
I'm curious. Have you seen much
But
of the
a judge is never going to downgrade that because
you know, I've seen a little bit of the
they
masterpieces. I saw the
don't
Cycling Land, I
ever
saw
do
the
that.
Mind Sensor,
Like,
the cat snake, whose name
there's this weird dichotomy surrounding this stuff where like they change all these rules to eliminate feel bad moments, but then like never ever rule on intent or downgrade anything that, you know, they totally have the right to do, but it never happens,
it's one of those cards that really also speaks to a lot of people. I think
which is really dumb.
you know,
But
play group, and there's some guy who
I'm way ahead in that game after winning game 1,
triggers all their spells.
so kind of frustrating.
volume of with magic.
The walking to the bathroom. Neil Shorter says the walking to the bathroom thing is more relevant in the restroom.
Might even fit into
You can see your opponent's
a more
hands and
novel
stuff.
way than
Yeah, well, we hadn't started the game, but like since we're on feature match, theoretically we could like pull up our phones, I guess, or like people could text us things about each other's deck lists. But like, it's just not realistic. Like we know what each other is playing, and we don't have cards yet, and
from what we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, actually,
they
so
downgrade if you put the
there's
wrong
actually 2 versions of
but
Save and Mind Sensors.
very
Set,
similar name now.
this
No,
time
they
was
don't.
rare. It was a future
I've
set
never
now,
seen it.
which is code for
I got game lost
But, it was
for
also a masterpiece. Michael Flores and I
in Legacy writing 4 Swords to Plowshares, 4 Forced to Plowshares.
Masterpiece with the very exotic frames and the gold sort of
Yeah.
and hieroglyphic motif.
Now, granted, that head judge
But it's also going to be a rare in the
is
in the set, so you can use
was
either
a petty person who did not like
It
me.
will be legal.
It will be in standard. So,
It will be
So
standard.
maybe they would have downgraded it if it was somebody but me. But
Yes.
also that was like 2 years ago, so it might have changed since then. But I've still never heard of anybody downgrading that, even though it should be the easiest downgrade ever.
Game 3, it looks like we're going to get started.
We are underway, and
You should shuffle and present and then go to the bathroom. That's what we did.
AJ Soccer.
We shuffled and then when we presented, I asked to go to the bathroom.
He's a hard one to read. You can tell he's got a very intensive background in Go Fish, and it's very important for people to not know. You know, either Ava Mind Sensor.
Right.
It will be legal.
And will be in standard. So,
It will be in standard.
Time you're attuned with
I don't really show my hand here, which I guess is what Chapin was talking about.
Or Traverse, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's like Street Wraith and an otherwise good draw, but the only land is a forest? Maybe that's it? Or maybe like I have the Overgrown Tomb and a Thought Scour in addition to the Street Wraith. It's something like that, where like I have a land drop, but it's not useful to me yet, and the rest of my hand is pretty good, and a Street Wraith. So we tank on this hard. Ben said, you know, up to you, and Job wanted to mulligan it. And I was leaning mulligan, but it was definitely a difficult decision. Ugh.
It is not nothing. It is not nothing at all.
Jungle Shrine instead of Jungle Hollow.
Game 3, it looks like we're going to get started.
We are underway, and both players
A super IQ. Yeah, I mean, like, they'll downgrade it at, you know, other random things, but I've never heard of it downgraded at a GP.
He's a hard one to read.
And this is day 1, too. This isn't even
He's got
when it goes to
very
competitive
intensive
REL.
background in Go Fish, and it's very important for people to not know, you know, like, do you have any 8s? Do you have any 7s? Got to be able to bluff.
Judge loans you a deck,
Got to be able to
and then game losses you
at
for
least until you get thoughts.
for
So
a 14-card sideboard.
it seems like we're still
Interesting.
at the mulliganing.
Yeah, well, you know, we're at the conferring with teammates phase.
Yeah, so it looks like I have a swamp.
Yeah, 'cause at this
Yeah, my
point,
land is a swamp, and then I have Street Wraith, Thought Scour, Stubborn Denial,
This
Tarmogoyf,
is where the team events kind of
Abrupt Decay, Death Shadow. Like, my hand is
But it
good,
is also
but
an
my
interesting
one
decision.
land is
There's
a
been so
swamp.
many interesting decisions. Like I was hearing earlier, players trying to figure out what is the threshold early in the match. What is the threshold by which you
So I go back.
what your opponent played? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously
yeah, day
you
one
call out
competitive,
something like,
day two
you know,
professional. That's what I meant. It hadn't gone up to
man
professional
for
REL
instance,
yet.
If there's 2 blue decks, for no question, right? But like, at what point
Is
are you
Bant Eldrazi dead?
like,
I never thought it was alive.
call
I think
out-
that deck is a
did you call
garbo.
out- What do you call? Do you just call out everything that could plausibly be in anybody else's deck?
Oh, you're saying calling it out so your teammates know that it's not.
Exactly.
So it's not in your opponent's deck.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some of the top teams I was seeing, they were making notes as the things were going on. You know, once they figure out what are the, you know, because if one of them is playing like
Yeah, so
Eldrazi
I'll
or Affinity or something, there's not as much.
I'll talk about it in my
overlap.
tournament report, but
often,
what they're talking about
for
right now
instance,
is
there's like a
is
Grixis
teams
control and an
where like,
Oxon,
oh,
Death
I'm
Shadow.
playing against Burn, so
With, you know,
your
Bushes
opponent
call it
can't
out.
be playing against, you know, can't be playing all of these decks. I think I just pulled up a 6-card no lander there. Instantly go to 5 on the play.
Of what happened to team, like, you know,
But
obviously, I confer with
but yeah, that stuff like it comes up. You know, it's not every round, but it comes up. The other thing that happens in these team events a lot is people just like show each other cards. Like,
you know, even like a kind of raised
like the guy on the far right will shuffle, like side shuffle, just facing inwards, and so the C player on the other team can see the A player's deck.
And there's
That
also
happens
very
like
easy
once
to
every 4
accidentally
rounds. Like, you
mess
guys,
everything up.
you
If you
gotta be
change
careful.
You gotta just pick a plan and go with it. And if
I was on the very
one
end.
player's
I wasn't in the
thinking
middle,
of
so I was just
play,
shuffling
and
away.
somebody else comes in and they
But
don't know the plan,
if you're in the middle, you gotta be
they
real
might think, oh,
careful.
this is just a really
And
bad
then
scenario, and let's just play to our outs. But in reality,
Also, don't shuffle your teammates or your opponent's deck where your teammates can see it. So that's another thing where it's like they're probably not doing it on purpose, but if they are, it's really easy, really profitable. Like, you just get to know what deck, you know, you're playing against before you pull up your 7s, and really easy to get away with, basically. To, like, it's hard to catch, and then also you can just say, like, oops, sorry. So that's a really insidious cheat. So if you present and they're even close to shuffling like towards their teammates, just say like, hey, you know, protect my deck because I'm protecting yours. So
this is all going according to plan, and if you switch halfway,
so this
through,
is Street Wraith, Engineered Explosives, what's that? Tassiger, Decay, something else. No lands. On the play, we get a Scribe for mulliganing. We're on 5, and we have the Street Wraith. Yeah, the Raptor Mash is a good middle seat shuffle for sure. Although Raptor was on the side, they put Josh Cho in the middle. After on Saturday night, Josh Cho asked me something about that game 2, I think it was. He's like, why didn't you decay one of his creatures like before you drew the Death Shadows? Like, do you want me to decay the creature that's a land or the creature that has hexproof? And he's like, oh, either one. Like,
Could be a bad luck.
oops.
You cannot change horses in the middle of the stream sometimes.
AJ
So Scry to the bottom.
pushes his Scry to the bottom and immediately.
I asked, I another weird thing, just every interaction was weird. I asked if I could start, right? So I scryed to the bottom and then asked if I can start, and he's like, yeah, like kind of dismissive. But like, I saw Leyline of Sanctity last game. Like, I have to give you priority.
That's like you had a 6.
Did spike the land. I guess that's an Inquisition. I'm still not used to that art, even though I played 14 rounds with it.
The Death Shadow decks, they mulligan pretty well. The fact that you just don't need very much. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nobody wants.
So
to
5 on the play.
No,
Scry to the
but,
bottom and
you
Street
have
Wraith into the land.
giant creatures for
And
1 or 2
Inquisition.
mana, so you really don't need to draw that.
My
many
hand is
cards.
Decay,
Now,
Tassiger,
and the
EE.
Boggle deck
Pretty
is the
strong.
fact that it's possible that Ward only has 1 creature, but unfortunately, it looks like he's got 2.
Yeah, and this is Inquisition of Kozilek. Sees a hand with armor.
pretty bad hands.
Spirit Mantle?
Spirit Mantle. Wow.
And this is as bad as a good hand could be. Like, this is the bottom of the good hand range.
Being able to,
Because there's no, like, Rest in Peace is kind of bad. The Spirit Mantle doesn't matter
I
yet.
guess Ethereal Armor?
The second creature is
Rest in Peace
redundant.
depends- It might shut off his hand. He might have to just take the Rest in
And
Peace.
That's what he
He
does.
would love
if
to be able to take a
if I'm
Boggle
afraid of the
versus
armor, I
Swords
can just
or
take it
Swords.
there, but I'm not.
Unfortunately, with
So I have to take the Rest in Peace because of this Tassiger in my hand is like the only way that I'm gonna be able to stabilize. I have the Decay for the Spirit Mantle, so
Another Inquisition here.
I just need to get a graveyard going. And if I could draw an untapped lands there, then I'm like right in it. But
Wow. Engineer Explosives could be amazing.
I don't. I draw an
Gotta
Inquisition.
be careful about the Umbra.
So I can play an EE for 1 here, or I can Inquisition first. And I go for the Inquisition first because
He stacks up some of the auras on the Bogles. The Engineer
so that was a really tough decision. I remember just feeling like no, I have to Inquisition here, but I couldn't really tell you why. I think an EE for 1 is totally legitimate here, because even if I can't blow it up for a while, like he won't just go all in on this scout if I have the EE, and it'll buy a lot of time and then blow up later. But in my head, I thought I'm behind enough that I'm going to be able to use this EE to be profitable rather than like a stall tactic. It's going to be my game changer, right? Rather than buying me time so I die more slowly because I'm down a bunch of cards, I'm going to use it to get back into the game. And I need time to do that, so it's going to be, I'm going to be taking a beating in the meantime. But that was my theory there. And then I ended up spiking a Rancor, which is really great because that card could have been really bad for us.
Explosives would just get more money.
I wish it was a Pluto Delta. It was indeed a Decay in my hand.
Now, if you're
And then you
Daniel,
play Spirit
Here's the mantle.
Scout, and
Get in for 2. Another opportunity to hit a land.
that is
And it's a Death Shadow.
For AJ Soccer.
okay.
So
Here we go.
He does need another land here.
At least one.
I'm a damage short.
More?
No, I don't know. He's got Culligan's command in his hand.
A self-damage
He's allowed to
short.
have a second land.
But I can at least get this out there.
Engineer Explosives does not want to just sit around and
So
wait.
another really cool part about that Inquisition play before the Inquisition before the explosives is it's very likely that I am just gonna get hit by exactly this line. Whereas if I play explosives, maybe he saves his Spirit Mantle and then chokes me on a later turn where I have to hold up Decay because the mantle's in his hand instead of already in play and blown up with the explosives. So by going with Inquisition, I can both protect my life total and get value out of the explosives and get more likely to get past the mantle in a semi-efficient way. Trying to hit hay
He
play
knows
when
the
I
Imperial
pause
Armor's
it.
coming down next turn, so this is potentially a lot of damage. He's got to just put the explosives down while the getting's good. He can't be
Absolutely.
greedy and try to get both Bogles.
Well, it's going to be no matter what happens, it's going to be a 2-turn process for him.
Right.
Because he can't play it next turn when he draws the land and activate it.
Right.
So
I forget what happens this turn. Why is he fetching?
now if you're Daniel,
His hand is like Bogle.
It depends on how much damage you can do. I mean, you got to make sure
Armor.
that it's enough damage that you punish him. You want to make it a 2-turn clock in case he doesn't draw the land. You know?
That's right. He drew Spirit Dancer.
Spirit Dancer.
The extra cards are a big
So
Now you definitely pile on.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit Dancer and armor on the Scout. Now this gets in 2 extra damage here, but I kind of hate it. Because if I don't blow up, oh no, it does anyway. Sorry. There's a Spirit Dancer play later in the game I'm thinking of. This is totally correct and fine. So it gets me for 4, down to 9.
This isn't a a definite 2-turn clock.
And Scour, not what we're looking for.
Like it has he can do enough if he actually goes for it. But if AJ has a fatal push, for instance, and do we know
if I have
if AJ if he's the fatal push player?
Jabin's not a fatal push. I am the fatal push player, but I board them all out.
The fatal push player, so.
I can only hit like Dancer if he still has it in his deck and Dryad Arbor.
Looking for that second land.
So I Scour here. If I draw lands, then I get to play Tassiger. And if I just play like Death Shadow, I don't think I have enough for Tassiger. If I just play Death Shadow, then it dies to my explosives. And I can't play Tassiger, and I need that second land. So Scour, hoping to hit a land, is really my only option here, and I brick.
Misses again.
Yeah, I think he's got.
I hit another decay.
Devastating. That's unfortunate. So, depending on what other auras he has, he could potentially take AJ down this turn. But he doesn't have anything else yet.
Nothing else, so I take 4. The fetch land represents that Dryad Arbor.
So another opportunity here for AJ.
And this is basically my last chance. And I do hit it.
Has to find a land. He does
There we
find
go.
one.
There we go. We got ourselves a game.
Which,
and then he gets to,
it's slightly problematic because I have to get a green here. So I'm taking 3. So, where's my pen? So, I have to get a green here because I have like 2 decays in my hands that I'm probably going to need to win this game. Which means I'm going to be taking 3 down to 2. And then this Dryad, or this Rainforest becomes a 1/1 and attacks me down to 1. So best case scenario, I'm going to 1 here. If he has absolutely anything to put on the Spirit Dancer, or no, because the thing he puts on the Spirit Dancer has to be more than 1, because I can blow this up in combat. So if he has a 2-minute enchantment for the Spirit Dancer, he can win on the spot. But otherwise, I'm gonna go to 1 on the following turn. How did you stabilize this game? That's what we're looking at. Vet split was 2 Misties, 4 Catacomb.
Have an abrupt decay.
It's tough because he's real low. He's real low on life. But if he can Polluted Delta...
Here comes the Dryad Arbor.
An Overgrown Tomb, for instance. If he can get some green mana, it's unfortunate that would put him at 2, which is not a lot. Dryad Arbor, obviously.
Yeah.
That Dryad Arbor is just the bane of my existence.
Very dangerous in this position. But, and you can't Abrupt Decay the Dryad Arbor either. Important to note.
That is important to note. Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion Patrick Chapin.
Well, I think he's going to play Death Shadow on his turn. But we are getting close enough that you could Griff Spoon Dryad Arbor.
So here it comes. I have no choice. This is a forced line. If I try and get a swamp, then
is in fact
then I'm just conceding.
Wow. Going to 2, and then when the Dryad Arbor damage resolves, AJ will be at 1. But I mean, Death Shadow.
And then next turn, I get to play a huge Death Shadow and a Tassiger, which is important because I'm going to need 2 blockers
of being low on life
for this and the 1/1 thing.
Right, activate it.
Or this.
Get rid of all of that. Still have a Dryad Arbor. Still have a Spirit Dancer.
So we go to 1.
Does he have something to put on the Spirit Dancer?
Yeah, I mean, anything on the Spirit Dancer is, you know, now you're talking about 2 different lethal threats, given that AJ's at 1. Besides, Daniel Ward...
And this is awesome,
anyway.
Because...
You know what I mean?
If you're going to be on camera...
if he just has a second Dryad Arbor in his deck, I die.
It's too bad he's not playing Spirit Loop. I always like when these decks have, like, Spirit Link, Spirit Mantle, Spirit Loop.
So, in pretty much every Bogles list I've ever given or critiqued, or I've never played it because I don't think it's good, but I always, almost always, probably always, had 2 Dryad Arbors in the 75. You play the one main, and then you play a second in the board for matchups exactly like this. It's insulation against edict effects that are unbelievably good against you. So Liliana the Veil, one of the best cards in the format against you. Dryad Arbor is your answer to that. And you'll get in these matchups that are it's just so important to be able to get that last one. So not having a second Dryad Arbor is, I think, a deck building mistake that that saved me here. And then, speaking of mistakes that saved me here, he plays, after he thins his deck with the fetch because he's drawing a card off of the Spirit Dancer from the armor, but he plays the armor on the Scout. Yeah, Ephro in the chat. Completely correct. May I direct your attention to the top left of the screen? I'm at 1 lives. A single HP is all that remains. Every single creature with a power is a 20/20. You don't have to protect your threat. This is a lethal creature. This is Merit Lage right now. You don't need to pump it up. Meanwhile, getting a second or a third lethal threat, puts me in a real bind because there's no one card that answers 2 of these. I can't. All of my fetches and duels are off, and you know that I don't have a basic in hand, so I'd have to draw a basic and play 3 spells. Like 3 1-mana spells to catch up. Yeah, each creature's a phage. Or should be. This Dryad Arbor, phage. This Scout, phage. This Spirit Dancer, could have been a phage. Didn't want a third phage? Phage, for those of you that don't know, I guess I should, This is a real Magic card right here. Not the conspiracy version. Give me the Legions version. 3 B 4/4. When it comes into play, if you didn't play it from your hand, you lose the game. So I guess that Dryad Arbor probably didn't want that to be a literal phage. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature can't be regenerated. Okay, doesn't have that clause either. But this last one is the important one. When phage deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Yeah, Momer, it used to be, when the Momer pool was smaller and Momer was super popular, if you were ahead, you would roll another 6 instead of a 7, because if you hit phage, you just lose the game. Sigh. So, I'm tapped out. I can't have anything here to do anything on end step. He's going to draw a card, and, you know, if he hits another thing, if he hits another enchantment in the next 2 draws, then he can still do this. Or if he just draws a creature in this first draw, then he can make 3 threats. That could have been 4. But this is just a heinous blunder. Making a comeback like this to win from 5 cards in a bad matchup against a solid draw, like where I don't even like draw out of my multi-5 for 3 turns. You don't win these games without them making a mistake. They just, you know, you need some help. And my opponent was gracious enough to hand me that help in the form of an improper target.
Okay. Well, here's Glade Cover Scout into Ethereal Armor.
And by building his deck wrong and not having a second Dryad Arbor.
It's not out of nowhere, but I mean, AJ really needs an untapped land because he's going to need to be...
So, I need to do 2 things this turn. So you hear Chapin talking about how I need an untapped land. But, since this Death Shadow deck plays Magic just like Richard Garfield intended, for 2 mana, I can get a 12/12 and a 4/5.
Death Shadow, and be able to
A bargain
kill
at
the,
any
the
price.
Ride Arbor that gets by. So we see.
But a
the
true
Death
steal.
Shadow.
Tassiger and Death
oh,
Shadow.
that's two.
So
blockers.
if I did
That's two blockers.
have an
It's
untapped land,
A very precarious.
nothing
position,
changes
given
because
that
I still
the,
need
the
two-
core could
2
very
blockers for the 2
quickly,
lethal attackers.
Put this one away.
So like I have to hope to fade
I
2
mean,
draw steps here.
What are you gonna do? Right?
Again,
This
you
is-
don't win these games without a little help from your opponent. You also don't win them without a little help from your opponent's deck. And so he has 2 draws to hit
Pulled it out by
anything
the thread
to make
by
this
AJ
lethal
Soccer with a double,
and bricks.
double mulligan. And unfortunately, obviously, having to go down to 5 cards, super unfun, but sometimes you gotta just struggle through it.
Sometimes you just gotta struggle through it.
So any aura on the core Spirit Dancer, that'll win the game here.
Literal anything.
Just about, yeah.
And
It would be,
I'm gonna try and rewind it like 10
would
seconds. That's gonna be hard to do on
put
this.
this one away.
There we go. So I'm gonna tell you what's going through my head.
What are you gonna do, right? Like this is where we're
What's
at.
going through my head here is
This
this
where
is
we're at.
probably
It's been a very impressive,
and hopefully
just
a land or
pulled
like a
it
Leyline
down
of
by
Sanctity.
AJ Soccer.
Because if it
Double-
was an aura, he would have just
double
played it.
mulligan.
If it was a creature, he would have just played
And
it.
unfortunately,
So,
obviously, having to go down to 5
my,
cards,
my
super
thought
fun,
is,
but sometimes
on
you
that
gotta just
draw-
struggle through it.
Is basically, am I dead? And then when he like puts it in his hand and flicks his cards, I was like, yes, we're alive.
Just about.
Because obviously, if he draws anything, he just plays it and wins. Like there's no thought about it.
Be
So it's like,
real difficult
Yeah,
for AJ
well, I know I'm
to get
alive
out.
right now. It's like, draw. Am I dead?
But the fact that
No. Yes.
it looks like
Again,
gonna have to ship
another Dryad Arbor. Great opportunity to kill me outright.
AJ is turning the corner. Oh, you can tell from the vibrations. He knows because he's even got.
Did you hear what Chapin said? You could tell from the vibrations. From just the way I drew my card, Chapin's like, he knows. He knows.
Abrupt decay anything, except the core.
I checked my sideboard
Yes.
to see if my collective brutality was in my deck anymore.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to kill the core here.
We are doing it. We are doing it, folks. This
The
is
only
AJ
reason
Soccer.
that matters is if my fetches are alive.
Obviously.
Here, John Job is asking if there's any reason not to kill this right away. I said no. I'm gonna kill it right now.
He does abrupt decay, but no, the fact that obviously Death Shadow 12/12, big numbers, no question. It's huge, but it's not gonna.
Not quite enough to
No.
force Daniel to block.
No, it's not quite 13. And AJ has so many cards in his deck that damage.
So I have to pass.
It's the nature of.
But if I can
Death
do
Shadow.
anything the next turn, again, he has to draw like
Cards in his deck
exactly
now are
Spirit
turned off.
Mantle here,
Looted Deltas,
which there's already one down.
All the fetch lands, but also Street Wraith. It's going to be a while on Street Wraith.
You're going to see a Griff's Boon here from Daniel Ward at some point.
Oof, that would be. Well, that would be the
Griff's
end.
Boon, yeah, Griff's Boon would also do it. Ranker does not do it,
On the scout.
but it does
That's
mean
something, but
that
it's not
I
enough
can no
yet.
longer attack with Death Shadow and leave back Tassiger. The
Yeah.
Death Shadow has to be the one to play
That
defense.
would have been game if AJ didn't have the abrupt. This is. Man, this is an intense.
Tarmogoyf was a great draw. I
It's
needed
interesting,
another body so that I could start
the
attacking.
Death Shadow is likely to stay much larger than the Boggle.
And,
for a while.
The fact that it's Goyf and not like Snapcaster or Jace means that when I do get to attack, I'll get to attack with the Death Shadow, not just Tassiger.
Suddenly Death Shadow is
Suddenly you have to chump block the Death Shadow.
right. Suddenly Death Shadow.
At
is
some point
the
here,
abyss.
time gets called also,
So AJ.
which is
Uh,
yet another challenge. Yeah, they just don't make it easy.
abrupt decay in hand. Not really a lot that it does.
It's not enough that I multi-5,
But,
purposefully went to
obviously it could
one
take
life,
out, another core. It could take out another.
barely squeezing this out. It's like, okay, and you have 3 attack steps. Good luck. Like,
Depending on how things break.
it's not quite yet. I think it's like a turn or two down the line, but
Decay's Rancor in the middle of combat.
Or the Ethereal Armor.
Yeah,
Magic Cup.
absolutely. Just being able to shrink the Boggle in the middle of combat can sometimes be one of the most.
I'm also very curious because I don't remember in the moment, so I'm wondering on this replay whether or not he shook my hand.
Obviously, another Death Shadow would be amazing.
Oh, I think
We'll
he's
find
going
out
to
together.
Tarmogoyf right now.
Does have a Tarmogoyf.
I think he's just
Okay.
doing Tarmogoyf, so he's going to have the creature advantage, and maybe he can just start pecking in.
So it's interesting because now he's got.
Job's trying to talk me into like doing some weird line with the decay. I don't really understand it. I just want to play Glyph and pass.
Whatever. The value of like getting in with a hit now so that lots of stuff is lethal.
The judge tells me to make a play here, which I guess is fair. But he rushed me earlier in the match in a spot that hadn't.
From the looks of it,
that was, you know, like 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds, and he rushed me. Didn't like that, but this one was legit. We took too long on that decision, especially because I knew what I wanted to do. When he had 3 creatures, what's stopping him from going for lethal? The Spirit Dancer has 0 power. It's a 0/2. You need to enchant it.
He does have one more unknown though. He has one more. He has one unknown.
Another Goyf means that I'm gonna win in time.
Well, I think he turned the corner before.
Yeah.
The corner was
so here I have
one last draw, assuming that AJ.
I have the game won, right? This game is 100% mine if we play, you know, 10 more turns. But it's turn 2. So now I no longer get to play safe around top decks. I have to kill my opponent. Meanwhile, before all this, like right before I mulled to 5 in this game, my teammates punted their middle match. So John Job won on the other side. He beat Affinity. You saw it at the very beginning of this. And then it was Burn against like some Tron deck, I think. And they like miscounted. I was obviously like arguing with a judge at that point, so they couldn't ask me. But they straight up threw away a game, is what they say. I literally I don't know. I didn't see it, and it wasn't. I don't think it was on camera, because they were watching me go to the bathroom. But yeah, like none of this had to happen if my teammates in the middle just like sequence their spells right and win. Another layer to this never easy stuff.
I mean, I think Ward's gonna have to get.
How about fully rounding the corner?
Yes.
Yeah, Scooter. Well,
you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
We've demonstrated so far that that's not necessarily.
There's a parking spot.
But Ward is on the.
So now we're trying to figure out our attacks.
Assuming to use that parking spot. This is not a time to tap your brakes. This is a time to accelerate. Put your foot on the accelerator.
And right now, AJ's asking about the accelerator.
Yes.
He's like, what? They're talking about what?
So I'm saying I think.
Right. Now,
I think we win if I can play.
There is the possibility of
this Goyf, because this attack is like a forced chump, and so if I can send another thing,
I mean, it can be potentially, but it's not really the same way.
Then
this is gonna be
then I can get through.
He takes the hit.
But we count the Tarmogoyf, and it's one bigger than I thought. I thought it was 4/5, but it's 5/6. Like I think I forgot about the explosives being an artifact.
So what they're debating right now is, do I want to keep up Tarmogoyf or do I want to keep up my other?
Once I realized that that the Tarmogoyf is 5/6 instead of 4/5, that's actually the difference. That's the whole game. Is I get to attack with Death Shadow here and play the second Goyf.
Oh, no.
Obviously he snap chumps. Totally correct. If he's playing for the draw.
Oh no.
Spirit Dancer.
Fifth turn, because this is the third turn. That means
Hilariously
one more turn.
A targetable thing. Which again, like this is why I don't need fatal pushes. If the Spirit Dancer is relevant, I can just kill it with my other stuff. Like maybe I should have had one fatal push in my deck, but I don't think I'm supposed to have a bunch of fatal pushes in my deck when I still have the other removal spells that can do other stuff, and then they all hit as creatures anyway. The creatures that can get hit, that is.
So they're 5s.
They are 5s, so he's got.
Would you play the second Goyf? Because I need this is turn 3 of turns, so I need to present lethal this next turn. If it weren't for this die on the table, if we weren't in turns, I would have played safe. I would have left up decay. That's why I said like if it weren't for the clock, I'm 100% to win. But because I'm on turn 3, now I have to give my opponent a window to draw like Griff's Boon or Spirit Mantle and
If, like, for
take
instance,
it.
Not even lifelink. Just if you
Take
put
the game,
Spirit
that
Link
is.
on your boggle. You would
But
gain
time pressures
life
means I have to do it.
before you die,
Spirit
because it's a
Dancer,
strike.
obviously the draw. So I'm
Strike.
like, hey, we win.
Spirit Link, you know, would be enough.
Draw. Decay.
There's abrupt
There's the
decay.
abrupt decay.
Lethal. Okay, he did shake my hand.
Soccer pulls off.
All right, he did shake my hand. Okay.
Unbelievable.
Okay,
He was
I wasn't
stuck
sure.
at one
Wow.
land for most of the
Double
game.
mulligan.
And
Double
this,
mulligan.
the reason I wasn't sure, and what's going on here,
Redemption match.
Yeah.
He-
is that he called me a dick.
Deck registration error.
And
Got
had game 2 in like
Yeah.
a big
a similar.
Just something
number, actually.
like good games. You didn't. You don't have to be such a big dick or something like that. Which is weird because there's a judge standing here, and a judge standing here, and a judge standing here. So, like, my first reaction was I just looked at this judge, like, and the judge was like, so then I turned to my opponent and said, why am I a dick, or how am I a dick? And he said, well, you were a dick to me in game 1, and then you were a dick to the judge, which I was not a dick to. I mean, I disagreed with the judge and argued my case, but, like, is a lawyer a dick to a judge? To a, like, federal judge? You know what I mean? And then the comment that I told you about in game 1 is why I was being a dick in game 1, even though he, like, complained about a top deck that wasn't a top deck, and I made a cheeky comment. I'll let the people decide whether who's the dick there.
I suppose, though, to look.
But then,
they do make comebacks sometimes.
And
Well, they
something
do make
like
comebacks
almost
sometimes.
done, which means I have-
Pew, 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 pew.
Wow,
Wow.
that was great magic. AJ Soccer his team goes to 7-0-1.
7-0-1 is a nice spot to be at with one more round,
One round to
left to play today. Because, you know, obviously X1-1, lock up top 4, no problem at all. But they've already, you know, 7-0-1 is well.
Kinda wanted to see if he had
into
anything to
a
say
good
about the
spot
match.
for day 2. They would love to win
He's just
the
talking about
last one.
how having a good record is good.
Very
But,
exciting. We have a quick break, and then we've got one more.
So, a couple other things, funny follow-up things, is the next day, he apparently went to my teammate and apologized to him for acting unprofessional, which is weird, because he didn't call my teammate a dick. My teammate was like, okay, like I had nothing to do with that, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the other funny part about that is apparently he brought up Costa Rica while apologizing to my teammate. Like, I really got him good. Like, that match from Costa Rica must keep him up at night for him to still be obsessing over it, because that's funny. And then the second funny thing from this is that Chapin came over. Garrett asking about Costa Rica and about the Game 1 comment. I talked about them earlier, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm going to post this on YouTube and Newmont Gaming, so you can go back and watch the beginning if you're tuning in late. But the other funny thing was that Chapin came over to me and was like, dude, I'm sorry, like, about the game loss or whatever, because he was in the booth. And, you know, Chapin and we've been friends for 8 years now. We met 9 years ago. And, you know, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he's just doing his job. But he's like the best dude. So he obviously came over and said, like, you know, sorry, man, that sucks. But I was like, yeah, man, of course, no problem, whatever. Like, plus no harm, no foul, you know. we got there. But he said a joke that he made after, which, again, I repeat, this is a joke, you know. Patrick is nothing but a consummate professional and would never do this. But he was like, dude, I couldn't even like cheese it for you and like pretend I didn't see it, cause the deck. This is in reference to the deck reg error. I couldn't even cheese it for you, cause BDM like asked me about your deck list and what the threats are in it. So I went to your deck list and read all the creatures. Tarmogoyf was not one of them, and then you cast the Tarmogoyf like right then. It's like I had no hope of trying to cheese it for you. It's like, yeah, you know, good beats. What are you gonna do? Oh, I almost forgot. The other funny thing was, so after he calls me a dick and stuff, and then like has no justification for calling me a dick when I asked why. As we're getting up from the table, he I don't remember what prompted it, but for no reason he said something to the effect of like learn how to register your deck list or something as I'm getting up, and I'm like, why? So I could 3-0 you? Like what would that have done for you? You lost handily in a great matchup. How is that an insult? Like, I don't even need to register my deck correctly to beat you. I mean, I didn't say any of that, obviously. I was just like, all I said was like, why? So I could 3-0 you? And then walked away. I think that's all I have to say about that. I just found it funny. BPAF telling the story. Did you submit your deck list online? No. I didn't. This is my first GP in like 6 months, and I didn't know that I was attending until Thursday night and then flew out Friday morning. So it was hectic. Like, we were finishing registering our decks while the player meeting was called and like people were seating for it. So it was a rushed, not that that's an excuse, but that's like that. The type of scenario that you envision in your head for when deck reg errors happen, that's exactly what the situation of this tournament. It was just like rushing last minute, whatever, and whiffed it. Like, it was totally my bad. It was, even though I argued for a downgrade and would have loved to downgrade, and I think that should be a thing that ever happens. I'm not trying to like blame them. It was 100% my fault. The online software was messed up. It said Cunio's deck was 60 cards when it was 56 and missing a 4 of. So you got the inverse treatment. What's the software? I thought it was just like by hand. I didn't even know that there was that they ran it through anything. Yeah, that match was insane. I tried to go over it the next day, like right when I got home. Would have been more relevant, but I was busy throwing up. Yay! I caught it by counting, but it did an auto ad at the bottom for 60s and 15s. Wow, that's bizarre. Did he get punished? Or I guess you caught it before the tournament? That's bizarre. I wonder if anybody got for that. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about it. So our other claim to fame in this tournament is we were the only blemish on the winning team's record. They XO1'd or XO2'd, they ID'd the last round, and then won top 4 in finals. And their only non-win or intentional draw was an unintentional draw against us in like round 5 or 6. But I have a bunch of like stories. Like this Grand Prix was insane. So I'm going to I just wanted to talk about this match and the stories kind of surrounding it. But the rest of the stories and more about the deck are going to be on my tournament report, which should be up in a couple of days on newmockgaming.com. I'll tweet it out when that happens, so you can, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see it there. Also, don't know if it would have said, yeah, I don't know if it would have said this is an illegal deck if we tried to submit it like that, but it did say it was 60. It was missing 4 ink muffin. Okay, so there's an online like submission form. See, I didn't even know that. Like to me, submitting your deck list online is like emailing it to the TO. That's how long I've been out of playing Grand Prix. Literally, like copy paste my notepad doc into a body of an email and send it in. That's how I submit my deck list online. Yeah, I guess that's it. Where's my screen? There we go. Boom. Hope you enjoyed that match. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of it. Pretty sick comeback, if I do say so myself. Yeah, I mean, you got to use. Let's finish with like some sort of semblance of strategy or theory. To make those insane comebacks, a couple things have to happen. One, you have to like get lucky at a certain spot. Now, even though I missed a bunch of land drops at the beginning, which is obviously horribly unlucky and like would have given me a real shot in that game. Later, drawing like back-to-back Tarmogoyfs made it so that I could kill in time, so that's pretty lucky. Because like, you know, I only have the 10 other creatures that can do that, and I drew 2 in a row. And he drew 2 cards that couldn't kill me. But you also need to use your life total as a resource, right? Going all the way down to 1 to make sure that I have my mana, I can cast my spells, I can, like, if I had just tried to survive at a healthier life total, I would have lost, but it would have looked close. But play to win. Don't play to survive, play to win. And hope your opponent makes massive game-losing blunders. That helps a lot, too. When they just throw it away and you're there to catch it. Best way to win. No gameplay today. I got stuff to do. Baseball to watch. Missed the deck overview. Did you go over it? Would you keep and change from the list? I very briefly went over it, but more about how the deck came to be and what I would change from it will be in my tournament report on New Mock Gaming in a couple days. Take one more question. So you're planning to play more GPs? Not really. I live in Las Vegas, so I will be playing the GPs here. The GP Vegas triple weekend nonsense. I'll be here for that. I registered. We'll see if I'll probably play the first one. I'm like 90% to play the first one, and then we'll see what happens after that. But I'm registered for all 3, so it is possible I play them. But yeah, with that, I wish you all a wonderful night. I will be back on maybe tomorrow, probably Friday. Yeah, probably Friday for gameplay stream, and then Monday is my birthday, so maybe we'll drink and hang out. I'm doing my birthday shenanigans on Thursday and Saturday, so on Monday, if I'm feeling up to it, we might have some drinks and have a birthday stream. It might be fun. But until then, thank you all so much for watching.